Hello, everyone. I'm Dali, a diversity and anti-bullying coach and blogger of DaliTalks.com, where I share valuable information with parents so they can educate their children about bullying prevention, how to educate their children about bullying, and how to advocate for them. And I have here a wonderful guest that I'm so excited to introduce to you all. Her name is Melissa Cristina Marquez, and she is a Latina marine biologist. Woohoo! I'm super excited about that because I don't get to say that very much. And she's a wildlife educator with a BA in marine ecology and conservation from New College of Florida. And she has earned a Master's of Science in Marine Biology from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. So she's also a world traveler. And Melissa is the host of a marine conservation podcast, Conciencia Azul, where she interviews marine scientists around the world who speak Spanish. She's also the founder of the Fins United Initiative, a program that brings attention to the diverse sharks and their relatives. And she teaches about their special habitats that they call home and the people who work with them worldwide. She's also a TED speaker. She has a talk, which I'll have the link below, where she speaks about the similarities between female sharks and scientists. And she's also had her television debut on Shark Week 2018. Pretty cool. So welcome, Melissa. It's so exciting to have you here.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this bio is so impressive. So tell me, how young were you, or when did you find out that you wanted to be a marine biologist?
I think since always. I was born in Puerto Rico, which is a small Caribbean island, and just being in the ocean. I mean, those are my first memories, is being out in the ocean, being out in the beach, studying the little hermit crabs, the cangrejitos that we have there. And it's just always fascinated me. And my parents say that ever since I was 4 years old, I've always said that I wanted to be a marine biologist. It wasn't, I didn't specify that I wanted to study sharks until much later, until I was like around 7 when we moved to the States and I got introduced to Shark Week. But there was always a love for marine biology there, and I think it was just very innate in me just because that's what I grew up around.
So then did you have other family members who had gone into that field of something similar?
Funnily enough, I have it's my dad's cousin who became a marine biologist, but I didn't meet her until I was already in college studying to be a marine biologist. So I had no idea until I got to meet her when I was about 18, 19. And then it was really cool because it's like, oh, look, we've got 2 marine biologists. But she's no longer doing that. She's doing something else. But it was really cool. She studied sea turtles, which was really nice.
Oh, wow. That's really, really cool. I love those stories because I think there's some beauty into it where you know that that person truly loves what they're doing because it wasn't something that was pushed onto them when they were younger, onto them. Yeah. So how did you know, or did you have a mentor who told you, hey, you should apply for this program, or, just to give viewers an idea of what to look for in programs when you go into this field?
When I was in university, it was basically me doing research on my own to figure out these places that I ended up applying to. I went to the Bimini Biological Field Center in Bimini, Bahamas to study sharks during my first year, because the school that I went to, New College, it's different in that the month of January is actually set aside for students to do research. So it's called ISP, Independent Student Projects. And that first one I went was to the Bahamas. The next one I ended up going to was South Africa to do research on great white sharks. And that actually ended up being kind of like the crux of my senior thesis later on. But it was really cool because even starting like before 20, I was already able to go to 2 really famous labs and learn how to do early grant work, learn how to start doing project proposals. So it was really, really beneficial for me. But the research I did on my own, and then of course my parents have been really supportive in what I want to do, and they're always sending me links either to articles about current marine biology work, or about being like, hey, this opportunity looks really cool, you might want to check it out. So I've been really lucky that I've had their support, and I had some great people in university as well, kind of look out for me and reach out and be like, hey, what do you think about this? They helped me with my grant writing, they helped me with my applications, but a lot of the bulk of it was on me to find these opportunities.
Wow, that's really amazing. So then at what point did you co-found your, it's a nonprofit, right?
It's not a true nonprofit, just because for it to be a true nonprofit, I have to stay in one area for more than a year, and I keep just bouncing around everywhere. But so currently it is a program, but it's a not-for-profit because it doesn't make me any money whatsoever. But it was when I was in undergraduate. I was taking what would now essentially be more of a science communication course. And my teacher obviously knew that I was really interested in sharks, and I started doing a self-published book of the sharks, skates, and rays in Sarasota Bay, which is where the school is based out of. Because I realized a lot of people went out to Sarasota Bay to fish, to swim, to just have a good time, but they didn't actually realize that there were sharks in those waters. It always made the news like, oh, a shark was sighted. And I'm like, how do you not know that they're there? So I created that book, and then one of my teachers was like, you should go to the classrooms and start doing these presentations like to the kids about the animals that are there. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went to one of her contacts, and it's kind of just blown up from there, where it started as the recommendation of one teacher, and it actually started out as it was called Sarasota Fins, because I thought it was going to stay in Sarasota. It was just going to be a pet project until I graduated, and then I'd move on to the next thing. But I got to really, really enjoy it. And then I started doing them in Orlando when I came back home for holidays, and my mom would get in contact with my brother's teachers, my old teachers, and then I'd do them there. Then they'd tell their teacher friends, and it kind of just grew. And when I moved to New Zealand, it grew even further, and I'm like, all right, I can't call it Sarasota Fins anymore because it's not that. So I completely rebranded it, and it's now called the Fins United Initiative. So it's something that started when I was a junior in college, and I'm now 2 years out of master's. So it's been a while. It's been since 2013, 2014, and it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Wow, that sounds really wonderful. And it's really nice to see that you started so long ago and it's still going on. Do you expect it to expand in a different way or pivot and add different type of?
I definitely didn't think it was gonna last this long. I mean, I never thought it was gonna leave Sarasota, which is why I first named it Sarasota Fins. But it's just something that I'm really, really passionate about. Not only am I a scientist, but I am a science communicator, where I am kind of that bridge between science and academia and the general public. And it's been a very rewarding job. We are still expanding in quite a few different ways. Like we're now adding sections of talking about shark anatomy. We're going to be bringing in sections about their relatives, the skates and the rays and the chimeras, their anatomy, talking about different environments that you can find these animals in, why these environments are important, what other animals you can find in these environments, and the threats that these environments take. We have a whole entire section about sustainable fishing and why you should look for your seafood, if you eat seafood, why it should be sustainably harvested. And there's some apps worldwide that that are kind of get the fin of approval, if you will. We have a book club where internationally we talk to people and we give reviews about books that we're reading that revolve around sharks and their relatives. So it's really continuing to expand. And the next thing is to make it a true nonprofit. But in order to do that, A, I have to be in one place, and B, it's a lot of money that currently I don't have.
Yeah, that's always a problem, isn't it? But just
always the money. It's always the money.
Yeah. So is this something that led to your podcast?
Actually, yeah. So I, around this time last year, was approached by Andrew Lewin, who is the in charge of Speak Up for Blue, and it's one of my favorite podcasts. I absolutely love it. It's a marine conservation podcast in English, and he had me on for the show after I did my TED Talk, or actually, yeah, after I did my TED Talk. And we were talking about it. He's like, hey, after the show, I really want to speak to you about something I've been brainstorming. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we did the podcast. He's like, you were great. I think you'd be perfect for this. How would you like to host a Conciencia or a Speak Up for Blue, but in Spanish? And I was like, heck yes. Because, you know, it's really sad. I did a quick search a few months ago where if you type in marine science in Google in English, you come up with like 6 million hits. You type in ciencias marinas in Spanish and you get 640,000 hits.
Oh, wow. That's
like there is a very big disconnect there. And the thing is, on YouTube, you see mostly science communication in English. For TV shows, mostly all the science communication is in English. So you see very little for other dialects, other languages, but science is one of those universal subjects. And so the fact that we've got all of this science communication only happening in one language is really putting those who don't know English at a disadvantage. So this is kind of me trying to make marine science a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more diverse by adding this voice, but just using my platform to really bring out all these other scientists' voices that have really cool research going on worldwide that most people don't know about because they just don't know. I mean, there really is no spotlight for them to be a part of. And so I just show up with a mic and tell their story to the world, essentially.
Yeah, I love it. And I have had the opportunity to listen to some of your interviews. So I really enjoyed it because it's truly like one of those things where I felt like, oh my gosh, how did I not ever Google something about this topic? You know, like I should know. I live in California. Sharks is a huge topic, you know. So, and, you know, and I learned from you. And then I also just learning about, from the people who you have on your show. It was very, very insightful. And also because I'm like very nerdy, my kids say, Mom, you're a nerd, but I love it because you make me smarter. So like, you should listen to this.
No, I mean, I constantly learn things on the show. I never leave the show not learning something new. And it's like, even the ones where people are talking about sharks, I constantly learn something new. And that's what I love, because even though I like to specify in one area, which is the chondrichthyans, the sharks and their relatives, really just the marine world fascinates me as a whole. And so getting to figure out all the different scientists, learning about the science that you normally don't hear, is absolutely fascinating to me. And I think a lot of other people find it really interesting too. They just don't have that opportunity because of a language barrier, or because they just don't know that it's out there.
Yeah, I agree. And what I love about it is that it's very up to date. It's not like this historical, boring, you know, content. Because most people, when I mentioned it to a friend, and we're like, "Oh, is it like one of those National Geographics?" You know, like, no.
Oh my God, if I was sponsored by National Geographic, that'd be great. But
yeah, it would be. It definitely would be. So you mentioned this podcast happened after your TED Talk. Is that right?
yes, so it did happen after my TED Talk. It was a good few months of us kind of going back and forth, making sure I had enough time to do it, because making a podcast is a lot of work. It is not only me doing this face-to-face of talking to people and getting the actual recording done, but it's the editing. It's making sure I'm doing all the marketing for it, the website, the Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite a lot of bit of work. And I didn't really have stability the backhand of last year to do that. So this February, March was when we started it, and we're now 20-something episodes in. And it's been getting better and better. I'm learning more things, and we're reaching a wider audience, which I'm really excited about.
That's really wonderful. So can you give us a little background on how you prepared to go to TED, and what prompted you to say, hey, I want to go to, you know, and give a speech at TED Talks? I mean, that is
Yeah.
almost everybody's dream. I know it's definitely one of mine.
It's definitely one of my dreams. And it was one of my dreams. It still is to do like a TED talk, not a TEDx talk. But hey, I'm all for doing more TEDx talks. Then Wellington, New Zealand, so that's the capital of New Zealand. I was living there to do my master's work. And I just finished my master's, I don't want to say bumming around for a year, but taking a year off between my master's and my PhD to raise some money, do some work essentially, and have a nice little nest egg, travel around a little bit. So kind of get away from academia and focus more on the science communication that I was doing. And I think it was Facebook where I saw it, where they were doing open auditions kind of in a way, where they're like, hey, we are looking for speakers. Submit your idea, and if we like it, we'll do an in-person interview, and then we'll go from there. So I submitted my idea, and it was basically talking about what you guys see in the video, which is talking about the similarities between female sharks and female scientists and cool facts about them, essentially. Didn't hear anything for about a few weeks, and then I got an email saying, hey, you know, you've been selected to do one of the interviews. Are you interested? I'm like, I didn't apply not to be interested. Yeah. So I got to meet with one of the representatives who's actually the organizer of Tedx Wellington. His name's DK. He actually ended up being my speaking coach during the process, but we ended up hitting it off really, really well. Chatting, talking about my idea, and afterwards he said, you know, I think it's the end of the week, I'll let you know. We're letting people know whether they got it or not. So I'm thinking, okay, business hours, 9 to 5, essentially. So it was like 6 o'clock on Friday, and I'm like, right, I haven't heard anything, so that probably means I didn't get it. So I drafted an email being like, hey, DK, just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do the interview. It was a lot of fun. I'm excited to go as an audience member. Good luck. I'm excited to see the lineup. And I sent it off. And like literally as it sent off, I received an email and it said that I got in as a speaker. And I'm like, he's gonna think I'm absolutely ridiculous for sending an email that says, thanks for not picking me when they've picked me. So it was a lot of fun. It was a intense month and a half of writing our talk and then honing it down to whatever you wanted, because you had up to 18 minutes if you wanted to talk. And I've never spoken for 18 minutes without audience participation before. Like I've never spoken at people for 18 minutes. So thankfully I didn't have to speak for 18 minutes. I whittled it down to like 11-ish minutes. And it was nerve-wracking for me because I knew how many people were going to be in there. So in the actual theater, there was around 1,000. And then they were live streaming it. Mm-hmm. So it was about another 5,000 people, wow, essentially.
No pressure.
And like, that is 6,000 people. So I like to tell people the story of the guy who was in front of me, because I was praying they were going to have me up first, like one of the first people, because A, then I could enjoy the rest of the day and not worry about it. But B, my family in the States was going to watch. Mm-hmm. So the later it got meant it was later for them. So when they told me, oh, you're going on dead last, I was like, oh my God, my poor parents are going to have to be up until 3 o'clock in the morning. Wow. Bless them, they did stay up, which was really nice of them. And a bunch of my friends actually stayed up to watch me. But so as the guy is finishing his talk, we have a timer in the back as well. So as it hit 2 minutes, they're like, Melissa, you've got to take your headphones off. You've got to be in your set. And I had like the Hamilton musical soundtrack playing, so I'm like trying not to be a jittery mess, but I am absolutely nervous, like super nervous. And as soon as I get on, I like kind of froze for a second, but then I was like, I got this. Do the whole entire talk. It was really great. And towards the end, you actually see me getting emotional. That has never happened before in any of the dry runs that we did. So I was actually thinking in the back of my mind as that was happening, I'm like, dear God, please do not start crying. This is going on YouTube. People are going to see this. Don't cry. But I think it was so emotional because it was a powerful message, and because I knew what was behind me. And what was behind me, if you see the video, is actually a whole entire collage of faces of different women. And leading up to the talk, I had actually reached out to Twitter and a bunch of my friends on Twitter being like, hey, if you are a scientist who studies sharks and their relatives and you are female, can you please send me your photo because I want you to be a part of this collage. And there was about 25-ish people that I got their pictures of that were behind me. And you know, when I was 7 years old watching Shark Week, I didn't see women marine biologists shown. So there was a good chunk of time where I actually wondered if I could be a marine biologist because I was a woman, because I was a minority. And kind of having them behind me definitely made me emotional. But it was a great experience. It was an amazing experience. If you have a chance to ever do a TED Talk or a TEDx talk, go ahead for it.
Yeah, actually, I just, now you telling me about this, I just realized that I have seen TEDx and TED Talks, and I'm not really sure what the difference is.
TEDx is an independently run event under the TED title, whereas TED is like actual TED. So it's still, I mean, it's still prestigious and whatnot. It is still up there, but it's more run by universities, by cities, different branches, if you will.
Oh, I see. See, always learning something new. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's really wonderful. And I love that you put that collage of women in the back because, I mean, it's emotional too, but imagine all those little girls, you know, looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I love it. I'm going to have my kids watch it now because I haven't had the chance. We have this minimum 2-hour media. So yeah, they're trying to, it's like, what do we watch today? But yeah, wow, I love that. So the other question I wanted to ask you is going off of the topic of, you know, these women behind you, have you had any experiences that you've had to deal with the discrimination, and how have you dealt with it? Is there just, you know, if I'm a little girl and, you know, what piece of advice would you give this little girl? Like, hey, you're going to have to confront this, and this is probably how you could deal with it. That could work, you know, best for you.
Yeah, I definitely had, and I'm not the only one who has faced not only sexism, but also racism and ageism as well. So I find it very hard for people to take me seriously, not only because I'm a woman, but also because I'm a Latina, and also because I am young. And so a lot of people kind of feel like I haven't paid my dues in a way. And it can be tough. It can be isolating. The nice thing is that a lot of women in science are now having the conversation of not only science having to be a diverse and inclusive space, but also we need to actually fix the structure of science before we keep telling people to come in, which is nice. We definitely need that conversation. I mean, you need to fix the leaky pipe essentially before you start telling people to go through the pipe.
Right.
And the nice thing is that I'm starting to see a lot more women in marine biology classes. I'm starting to see science be cool for little girls to be a part of, essentially. And I think my advice is, if you're passionate about science, don't listen to anyone who's trying to tell you it's not cool. Let them live their life. You listen to what you want in your heart. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times people have told me, oh, you want to study sharks? That's for guys. And people would kind of eye roll me, and especially, I'm tiny. I'm 100 pounds, 5'2" on a good day. I'm tiny, and they're just like, you work with sharks? Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, you will get some people who want to kind of raid on your parade, but if it's something that you're passionate about, keep at it. Definitely get good grades in school, take your science classes, take your math classes, take your writing classes, because there's a lot of writing in science that is very important. But also nowadays, science is becoming it's starting to meld with science communication, but also technology. So if you can take some kind of technology class, so you know how to start using certain programs and whatnot, that's a great thing. That's something that I wish I had started way earlier than I actually did. And just science communication. It doesn't even mean like you going into classrooms like I did. It literally just means that you can communicate, so you can tell anyone what it is that you study in a way that they can understand. And not everyone gets told the same exact thing. Like me explaining my science to you is going to be different. How do I explain it to my colleagues, which is different from how do I explain it to my grandparents.
Right.
So it's learning kind of the audience that you're working with and being able to communicate that. That's really, really important, especially in grant writing and in writing in general. So bottom line, if it's something that you're interested in, don't listen to the haters. Science is cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a very good thing to know, because I used to work for USDA, and I was the person who had to check to proofread that synopsis
Okay.
that they put on the USDA website for the public to see. And they
Yep.
would, because I'm not a science major, I'm liberal arts, women, gender studies. So they would tell me, like, if Dali can understand what we're researching, then we can put it up on the website.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Like I tell my friends all the time, like I send them bits and pieces that I'm writing and I'm like, does this make sense to you?
Mhm.
And I don't send it to just one friend. I send it to multiple friends. And out of my core friend group, like from way back when, I am the only scientist. Like everyone else does different things. And so getting their opinion on it is really important, because if they get it, perfect. That's it. That's it. That's who I need. I need to make sure that they can get it, and then I can work from there. And then, I have my other science friends who also help me. And sometimes, while it makes sense for my friend group, it doesn't make sense to the scientists. So it's back and forth, constantly changing it. But it's a really, really important skill to have.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And lastly, one of the most exciting things I think that drew me to wanting to interview you was your trip to Antarctica, because I have this notebook, and I'm going to show it to you right now. It's getting ready, but it's small, but this is like my third one, but it's full of the firsts.
Mm-hmm.
That is the firsts to do something amazing. So you're in it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the first Latina to go to Antarctica. I must know how this happened. Like, how is it 2018? And it's the first. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, because I collect names of women who have done amazing things just recently, while men have been doing it for so long. So
Yep.
yeah, can you give us a little background of how you ended up being accepted to go onto this, and what you're working on right now to make it happen?
Yeah, so I got accepted through Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound is an Australian initiative, essentially, to help women get to Antarctica. So I'm not the first Latina to go to Antarctica, but I am the first Puerto Rican in the program to go, which is cool, because I was doing some research and people were like, oh yes, you're the first Puerto Rican. And other people were like, no, you're not the first Puerto Rican overall. I am the first Puerto Rican for this program. There is, it seems, one other Puerto Rican who went before me. So I'll be either like one of the top 5, maybe number 2 Puerto Rican. But it's really, really exciting. I'm excited to bring my little Puerto Rican flag and my little Mexican flag, because I'm proudly both, and take pictures and be like, look. But it's a leadership program. Essentially what it is Antarctica is kind of, I don't want to say ground zero, but it is the place where if you are going to see climate change and its effects, it is going to be there. And Homeward Bound is kind of a way for women to get more involved in environmental policies. I mean, we've got all sorts of backgrounds coming, everything from just shark scientists down to people who study climate change to botanists, molecular science. I mean, you've got a whole entire weight of scientists coming to this thing. And it's us collaborating to figure out not only to have a sisterhood essentially in science, because science can be a very lonely place for women, depending the field that you're in. but also it's a way for us to learn more about leadership, how to get our voices out there, how to have better representation, how to be involved in environmental policies. So it is definitely an empowering program. I won't be going until the end of next year, so end of 2019. So I've got some time. I'm currently fundraising to help get me there, but I'm very, very excited to meet all of these amazing women who are kind of going to be my sisters now, sisters in science essentially, and learn more, because I'm always one of those people where I like learning not only just knowledge, but also ways I can better myself. And this is a great way to better myself and be a better support system, a better platform for other people, essentially. And this will kind of help me see other points of views that I've never seen before, that I never even considered because I didn't know they were there. And again, help me be a better platform to raise up the voices of other scientists who don't really have a platform to talk about. So I'm very, very excited to go. I keep saying that, but it's almost surreal. And yeah, it's that's what it is. It's surreal right now.
That's really fun. It's fun to be in that moment, but I'm sure once you get there, I mean, that's a totally different exhilarating.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's really funny. My friends, so it's winter right now in Sydney, hence the jacket. And all of them are like, Melissa, you get cold so easily, and you're going to Antarctica. And I'm like, it's gonna be summer. They're like, it's still gonna be cold. I'm going to be that person that I will have multiple layers on for forever. The Caribbean blood in me is very thin. We do not take cold very nicely. But no, it's something exciting. I've got friends in the news in Puerto Rico, so I can send them pictures and whatnot and show them, Boricua can kind of do anything. And I think it's something that we kind of need to remind ourselves now, because there is quite a lot of flack for being a Latina nowadays. There's a lot of flack to the Latino community. And there is a lot of, and we talk about this in Conciencia Azul, there is still a lot of cultural pressures for women to stay home and be caretakers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some women feel like they want to do a little bit more. They want to get out into the house. They want to have a job. They want to have a job in science. And this is kind of a way where representation shows them, hey, this is normal. And shows them, hey, if this kid from San Juan can do it, I can do it in a way. And that's all I've really wanted. Like, that is kind of my life goal, is I want kids to always see themselves represented in whatever field they want to go to, because I know what it's like to look up at role models and be like, where's someone like me? And I don't want anyone to go through that, because it's lonely.
Yeah, I've been there, because I was either the only female mechanic or one of the very, very few in the military. And I got into that because I wanted to rebel against the norm. So I know where you're coming from. And well, thank you so much for sharing your story. This has been really a treat for me, because I just love learning about women who are doing things like these. And because there's going to be a lot more behind you. I just know it. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, and if it's not my kids going into something like this, I know it's going to be another, set of kids, or just the awareness that this exists, that you exist, that you're out there doing this. And, I mean, they might be tiny right now, and then years from now, you'll probably be their boss. Who knows? Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I don't think everyone has to be a scientist, but I think everyone has to understand and appreciate the role that science plays in our everyday lives. And if they understand that, science literacy, that's what that is. It's science literacy. If everyone has a basic knowledge of science literacy, I think us as a community is going to be a lot better. And part of science literacy is having that diversity and inclusion. And thankfully, we're having good conversations, not only in the industry, but also educators like yourself, where we are showing people, yes, the diversity is there. Because I mean, that's how you solve problems, is a diverse set of minds, essentially.
Yeah. So can you share with us where people can find you, get updates, and definitely tell us where they can find the links to your GoFundMe account?
Yeah. So I'm probably the most prevalent on Twitter, which is at MCMSharksXX. And that actually has like a pinned tweet. So pinned tweet is the tweet on like the very, very top of the kind of like Twitter homepage, if you will, for me. And that actually has a link not only to my GoFundMe, but I also have an Etsy page where I sell some art that I've done.
Oh, yeah.
And all of those profits are going to the trip as well. And through there, I also kind of talk about Conciencia Azul, I talk about Fins United Initiative, and I also talk about my upcoming book that I'm going to be releasing hopefully soon.
Oh, wow. So is this more, what genre or what target market? Is it for kids?
This is for young adults, but also kids who really enjoy work. I'm thinking more like kind of Harry Potter age group essentially, but it's about science. And it's got a lead character who's a female who enjoys science. And it's got some Aztec mythology in there. It's got some women in STEM that you normally don't learn about. So I'm quite excited about that. It's definitely, well, I'm biased when I say this, but it's definitely something you want to pick up.
Yeah, no, you already have me intrigued. I am.
Well, it's bilingual too. We actually, it's gonna have Spanish in it, and in the back of it, we're gonna be having basically like a glossary of what each Spanish word is, how you say it, what it means. So I'm quite excited about it. It's a passion project, definitely. So all updates are usually through there. And that way you can also find the links to everything else. Also on Instagram, which is just my full name, Melissa Cristina Marquez. That I've got quite a lot of pictures and just daily science in general, which those captions are in English and in Spanish for people to understand.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I will have to have you come back after the book launch because that's really exciting. As a matter of fact, I just created a diversity and anti-bullying academy, and I have different lessons of different topics about bullying and diversity, and I include a book list because I also encourage children to read. So it has been so hard finding bilingual books that meet each topic. So I'm excited that you're writing one because that definitely goes into my gender lesson. And I always provide a book list. I'm like, hey, look, go check out these books or buy them. This is what you learn, you know. So yeah, that's awesome because I'm like, gosh, we need more Latinas to write bilingual books. It has been so difficult. It's incredible if you only knew. But again, thank you so much, and I'll be speaking with you again at a later time.
Definitely, Dali. Thank you.